Okay, so for this part, what we will focus now is the writing skill. Okay, so this is the expressive macro skill again, but this time it is writing. So we first focus our first half, our before midterm is the expressive, and then after midterm, the the other macro skill. Okay, so writing tayo ngayon. Ito ang focus natin. So what are our objectives for today? First, we will define writing, and then we differentiate the teaching from speaking. Remember, that is what we discussed last time. Explain each writing theory, identify what are the processes in writing, and lastly is to explain the different approaches as to how we teach writing. Okay? So let's start. So the definition and the uniqueness of writing. Like, what is it and how is it different from speaking? So, can you please read this first definition of speaking? May I have here Nello, Mr. Del Rosario? Nandiyan ka ba? O wala si Dello? Let's have naman, ano na lang. How about Abraham?
Hello po, ma'am.
Yes, can you please read for us this one?
Okay po. Writing is a medium of communication that represents language through the inscription of signs and symbols.
Okay, that's correct. Um, so, speaking of writing, we talk about signs and symbols. Like when we have this sign like this, for example, this is a pen. For example, we have this symbol. Definitely, we already know that that is letter A, and it corresponds to the sounds ah. Okay, so that is writing. We use certain inscriptions of signs and symbols. How about the second? Lara, please read.
It is a complex process that involves mastery on almost all language levels: morphology, syntax, semantics, pragmatics, and discourse.
Okay, as we all know, you cannot write unless you were able to read something. Okay, so writing is like it has a big demand on the macro skill. If you do not know vocabulary, if you do not know grammar, therefore, you will not be able to write. That's why it is a very complex process. You see, it involves mastery, not only with the vocabulary, not only with the syntax. Yes, you have, for example, a knowledge about grammar and vocabulary, but then you do not know how to make your writing cohesive. It cannot be understood. So what should you do? That's why you have to master almost all of the aspects, okay, in terms of the language. And then third, Kyla.
Okay. Writing is a productive skill that urges the writer to carry out the meanings or messages in the written form.
Okay. Expressive, meaning it is productive. There is an output. Okay. So it with the output, it gives us the meaning and the message in written form. And last but not the least, Ariane.
It is considered as the most difficult basic language skills due to its complexity and complete reliance on these language platforms.
Okay. So as you see, your writing skill will also be the way how we perceive your mastery of the language. For example, why do a lot of students struggles in terms of answering the learning guides, in terms of answering essay type questions? No, so there is a big question mark about that. Why are they struggling with that? Well, the answer is that It is because they do not have that much, okay, mastery with the morphology, syntax, semantics, pragmatics, discourse. They know the answer, but they cannot put it into writing. I think you already or you also have that experience that you know the exact answer, but you do not know how to express it. That's why it is considered as the most difficult language skills. Okay, and also, even in college, a lot of students are still struggling in this part, okay? Because we have to look on the diction, we have to look on the SVA, the pronoun antecedent agreement, and so much more. Okay, so this with that writing is also one of the macro skills that can be difficult to teach, but it will not be difficult unless we have the knowledge as to how we should teach it. Okay? So, defining defining writing, okay, a while ago, I wanted to differentiate the teaching of speaking versus the teaching of writing. For example, you are the teacher, okay, and then you will teach speaking, and then you will teach writing. What would be the difference in terms of you as a teacher teaching speaking versus teaching writing? Okay. All about that. Okay, Jerome.
Ayan, ma'am. Basically, if we were going to teach speaking, your objective should be focused on the speaking itself. However, in the other side po, in teaching the writing skills po, your objective should be focused only on writing. For example po, ma'am, in teaching speaking, your activity should be focused on pronunciation like that and in delivering a message. In the other side po, the teaching writing po should be your activity should be focused on writing a story, writing a sentence, using the subject verb agreement and etc. po.
Okay, that's right. Thank you, Jerome. So, with that, teaching speaking focuses on the oral, the vocal, gestures, the verbal and the non-verbal. We discuss about that on teaching speaking. However, for the writing, although both of them our productive skills, still we target differently. With writing, we use signs, we have these inscriptions, symbols, and other things. Okay, cohesiveness, cohesion. Kasi, as you see, di ba, in speaking, when you teach speaking, it is more likely spontaneous. You cannot edit what you say. But in teaching writing, you have to edit what you say. So, any more idea what would be the difference in teaching speaking versus the teaching of writing? How about how will the teacher facilitate it in class? Anyone? What do you think the scenario when teacher teach speaking and when the teacher teach writing?
Ma'am, try po. Yung
Sure, sige.
teachers po, mas focus po sila sa pakikipag-usap po sa estudyante nila. Parang inaano po nila yung lesson nila through speaking kasi mas ah, parang mas madali po matatandaan kaysa po sa writing.
Okay, so for Lara, maybe we can relate that with the teaching of speaking is contextual, di ba? We relate it outside world. But for the teaching of writing, most likely it will be formal, di ba? In the academe, we use it whenever we have subjects, di ba? Academic writing, research, campus journalism. These are all formal writings, right? So that's how we teach writing, most likely. But in teaching speaking, we teach the students how they can use it outside. Like we have this demonstration teaching, or maybe how to speak with a different kinds of people, communication. Although both of them are still communication, okay, the purpose is to communicate effectively. We can say that teaching speaking is taught more contextual, or maybe dwelling not only formal or informal. Okay, that's the proper word. Formal and informal. But for teaching writing, most teachers teach it in a formal way where they can use it in an academe in different professions. Okay, so to add, let's have this table. So look at that. So when a teacher teaches speaking, it takes note of the voices, pitch, stress, rhythm. But for writing, words. Another, check proper pauses, pronunciation, intonation. It's oral, like what Jerome said. But for writing, we look at the spelling, capitalization, and punctuation. Then, it is spontaneous and unplanned. This is what I am talking about. So, the teacher or the speaker cannot modify it. However, for the writing, it is planned and we can modify and edit this one. And then, know that speaking skill does not rely entirely in meta-linguistic competence. And this is one thing you have to take note. It can be acquired naturally. Like, for example, you wanted the students to learn English language, let him or her or they be exposed in an English environment. That's the key. However, in teaching writing, you cannot do that. They have to enter a formal schooling, okay, in order to learn how to write. They have to be formally, there should be a teacher or a guide that will teach them, this is how you should write this. This is how it should be done. Okay? So that's the difference between teaching writing and teaching speaking. There should be a formal instruction for writing, but for speaking, no formal instruction, it's okay. And then be aware that speech can have a lot of repetition. So, it's okay, yung sinasabi natin mabulaklak magsalita, ayan. Sometimes, we can accept that. It is acceptable. However, in writing, it should be formal and compact. We are discussing a while ago that it should be edited, should be modified. So, when you produce it, it is perfect or almost perfect. And then, recognized speaker can use simple sentences. And then for writing, use more complex sentences. So, why is that? Why is that that when we when we speak, we use simple sentences, and when we write, we use more complex sentences? What's the reason? Why is that? Yes, Jerome.
Um, on my own perception, Puma, it is very important for us to use simple sentence in speaking in order for our listeners to fully understand the message that we are expressing. And in the other side po, it is very important to use, it's not necessary actually to use more complex sentence in writing. However, or how be it, according din po sa table natin, it is very important din na magkaroon tayo ng complex sentence in order for us to expand our vocabulary, our sentence, what do you call this? Sentence skills making, parang ganun po, ma.
Yes, you got it right. So we use simple sentences because when our viewer listen to us, they are already using their what? They're only using their hearing, okay, and their eyes, and they're watching your mouth and the way you speak, and then the way your message or your voice be heard with their ears. So that's the process. That's the listening one. Now, that is already complex. So if you put a more complex words with that, it will be difficult for them to understand what you are saying, what you are speaking. Now, with the teaching of writing, it is okay to use complex sentences because they can go back to whatever you have written. Unlike in speaking, hindi naman pwede na, ano yung sabi mo, flashback nga, flashback. Hindi naman pwedeng ganun. Especially, we say that speaking happens in real time. Diba? So that's the difference. So in teaching speaking, it's okay that we use simple sentences as long as we can be understood. But for teaching and writing, it is better if we use complex sentences. I have here Myra's answer. She said we should use simple sentences in speaking to clearly understand the explanation properly. Yes, that's correct. In simplicity. While in writing, we use complex to deepen, broaden, and profound the text and meaning. Diba? Kaya nga yung research, hindi siya oral. Diba? Isipin nyo na lang kapag ginawa nating oral yung research. Wala nang mangyayari. Diba? That's why it's writing. Whenever it is profound, whenever it is a deep discussion, there should be a writing to back it up. Okay, so that's it. That's the difference of teaching speaking to the teaching of writing. Now, the writing theories. What are the different views, okay, in teaching of writing? Let's have this one, okay. So, I want you to analyze this, the cognitive process theory, just analyze this one and explain it the way you perceive it. Okay. I'll give you 30 seconds to process that. May I call here Leonard? And your own ano lang?
Hello po, ma'am.
Yes, hello. How do you perceive it?
Sa
Yeah.
mostly po, ma'am, yung ito sa tingin ko, ma'am, nag-focus po siya doon po sa structure po ng pagsusulat. Mostly po, yun po, yung about planning. So, gather data po muna about translation, yung parang ano muna po sa sarili mo pong words, yung mga na-generate mong ideas, then also reviewing po para ma-check kung tama po talaga lahat. Yun po, ma'am.
Okay, actually, that's correct. Okay, so from the term itself, cognitive process theory, we focus on our thoughts. We focus on our stock knowledge in our long-term memory. So what happens here? According to cognitive process theory, the way of writing, okay, the way the teacher perceived writing is this, that when a student writes, the student first look at their long-term memory, okay? And then when they look at the long-term memory, they started to translate. There's a translation. Whatever they see or whatever they perceive from their long-term memory, they have to translate it into writing, and therefore, when they were able to translate it to have a draft of their writing, therefore, they will review it, evaluate, or revise it if there are any changes. So that is according to cognitive process theory. So what is the implication when this is the theory? So it tells that whenever we teach writing, we have to make sure that the students have a good foundation, especially in their long-term memory. So naniniwala itong cognitive memory na dapat maraming alam yung bata doon sa ipapagawa mong writing. For example, I wanted you to write about your experience with snow. Okay, I want you to write about your experience in snow. Aryan, will you be able to write, to have a good writing if I ask you to write your experience about the snow? Yellow, yung mga ganyan, paglamig. Yes, Aryan.
Hindi po, ma'am. Kasi hindi ko po na-experience yung ganun.
Okay. So, Aryan, thank you, Aryan. So, Aryan does not have any experience, or maybe she has an idea, but then she don't have a good foundation or a good knowledge about snow. Therefore, diba, she cannot write, she cannot plan, she cannot translate, and she cannot review. And that's the theory of cognitive process theory. We have to make sure that students have this long-term memory enable for them to write effectively. Okay, that's one. Next, the second theory is this one, the social-cultural theory. I don't know if you're familiar with the zone of proximal development. You process it. What do you think would be about? Because the cognitive process theory is about the brain, our long-term memory. How about the social-cultural theory? May we have Shayna? What's your idea with this?
Hello po, ma'am. Good afternoon po.
Good afternoon.
Para po sa akin, ma'am, yung sa social cultural po, it's about po, relationship with other people. Parang environment po siya kasi po parang nagfo-focus po siya sa problem solving unlike po dun sa cognitive theory po. Po, mental processes po yung pinapagana po. Ganun po, ma'am.
Yes, exactly. So that's correct. The first theory is about the mental, our cognitive. However, the social cultural theory, as what Shayna said, talks about the environment and our relationship with people. So according to this theory, the students will be able to write if that student has a guide with him or her or with her. It happens with a process. First, the teacher, okay, the teacher will tell the students that this is the thing that you should do. So, imo-model the teacher. Now, on the second phase, the teacher, both the teacher and the students will do it. They will both write. And on the third process, the student will be the only one to do it. So that's how they do. Parang it's okay that even though the students do not have this long-term memory, it's okay as long as there is a good relationship with the guide and also with the environment around him or around her. Okay, so that's the thing. Another for the zone of proximal development. It also happens with this scaffolding activity. So how it should be done. The first is contextual support. Look at this. A safe but challenging environment. It doesn't matter how difficult your task is as long as the students are, what do you call this, comfortable, okay, at ease whenever there's your writing class. Okay? Parang, oo nga, meron yung long-term memory si students. Kaso naman, nakakatakot, ang terror naman ng teacher. How can that student write effectively? Okay? So that's the thing. That's what social cultural theory claims. Second, continuity. It also focuses on practice. Practice until makes perfect. And then intersubjectivity, mutual engagement and support is what I am telling you. There should be a guide. Two minds thinking as one. Flow. There's a communication, and that communication is not forced. A good relationship. Contingency. The scaffold assistance, okay, depends on the learner's reaction. We are still looking how the learners react with the assistance given. For example, good assistance is given, however, the students doesn't like that assistance. Therefore, it will be ineffective because the students does not react to the given assistance. And number 6 is the handover. Okay, the ZPD closes when the learner is ready to undertake similar tasks. So this is where the teacher will let the students be independent with the writing tasks. So what is the implication of this? The teacher has to make sure that she or he or they guided the students. Okay? Whenever there is a writing task, the teacher should first model what should be done, and then the second phase, the teacher should then guide the students how to do it. And lastly, when it's already done and okay, the teacher will let the students be independent with the task. So that is socio-cultural theory. Okay, so I hope you're getting the difference between the cognitive process and the socio-cultural theory. Nagigets po ba? Hello? Nagigets po ba?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes po.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay. And now, the third part is the social cognitive theory. Okay. So let me just explain this part. This is just the integration of the cognitive and the social cognitive theory. Social cultural theory. Pinagsama na. And this can be the best theory because it believes cognitive is still important. The student should have an idea on what you wanted them to write. But at the same time, the students should also be guided. They should have this assistance that would help them to accomplish the writing task. Okay? So that is as simple as that. And then they add this one, strategic knowledge. We do not just teach students the concept, the knowledge, okay, about writing. We also need to teach them the strategy of writing. Like for example, I will give you tips as to how you can write more cohesively. Like that. They will know the strategies. They are maybe even though the teacher is not explicitly telling them how to to do this thing, they are already acquiring it. Nakita niyo yan. Meron kayong mga ganon na subconsciously you are learning it because you are always doing it. Especially in writing. Halimbawa, paglalagay ng dash. Saan lang ba naglalagay ng dash? Halimbawa, pag putol na. Kailangan ba basta-basta lang naglalagay ng dash? Pag pinaulit-ulit at may guide tayo na kung paano gumamit ng dash in writing, therefore, we will know how and when to use it. Dapat pala syllabic yung paglalagay ng dash. Yung parang ganon. Okay? So, that's how social cognitive theory is. Okay? So, we're done with the theories. We have social cultural, cognitive process, and the social cognitive. Those are the theories. We're also done with differentiating speaking from writing. Now, for the third is the writing process. I just need one volunteer to please explain the writing process. What are the things that happens during pre-write, plan and outline, write at first draft, pre-draft, revise, edit, and proofread? May I call Heinrich? Are you there, Heinrich?
Yes po, ma'am.
Can you explain to us this writing process?
Siyempre, ma'am, sa una po kapag magsusulat po tayo ng halimbawa, essay po. Sa una, magke-create ka muna ng ng tinatawag mo na brainstorming or isipin mo muna kung ano yung topic na about dun sa topic, then magsusulat ka about dun sa topic, then next, ipaplan mo kung tama ba yung pagkaka-construct mo ng sentence. Kung okay ba, maayos ba yung outline, yung mga ginamit mong mga words, correct ba siya. Then next step, susulat mo na siya as draft. So, i-check mo yun ulit. Kapag nasulat mo na siya, yung sinulat mo na yun, parang scratch pa yun, hindi pa yun yung pinaka-final output mo. So, pagdating dun sa 4, kapag nakita mo yung may mali ka dun sa sinulat mo, so, dun pala papasok yung i-revise mo yung piece mo or yung work mo. Kasi, halimbawa, pangit pakinggan yung grammar mo or may mali dun sa grammar mo, makikita mo dun sa sentence mo kapag binasa mo siya, no? Diretso. So, i-edit nyo po muna yon. So, step 5, pagdating nun, kapag i-check nyo na po dun yung mga spelling nyo, then next, yung final na po yun na po yung magiging pinaka-final output nyo once na naging okay na po lahat.
Okay, thank you, Heinrich. Yeah, we get that. So thank you. So that's for Heinrich. Any other? Thank you. Meron pa ba? Explain it more clearly. Nello, how about Nello?
Good afternoon po, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
This writing process po, it is important especially kapag magkakandak tayo ng research paper kasi we need to create a plan to finish that research paper. So first, gagawa tayo ng tinatawag nitong pre-write, which is yung parang mag-gather ka pa lang ng information bago mo siya isulat. Tapos yung plan and outline, dito papasok yung mga scope and delimitation, yung mga ganong process. Tapos dito sa write a first draft, dito parang isusulat mo na siya as a whole, parang yung final product, pero i-scan mo pa siya ng more deeper para ma ma-scan mo yung mga mali tsaka yung mga wrong grammar. Tapos dito sa redraft and revise, yun na nga yun, yung uulitin mo na, tapos i-correct mo na yung mga tama tsaka yung maling grammar, spellings, tapos yung mga spacing, ganon. Tapos dito sa edit and proofread, yun na, i-edit mo na, tapos ipapa-proofread mo na sa mga panels, professors, or kung sino mang mga sanay sa ganong papers po.
Okay, thank you, Nello, for explaining it more. So, when we talk about rewrite, it's more on our mind. I said it a while ago. It's like brainstorming. You can brainstorm with yourself or with your group mate, with your partner. So, and with Nello, I've also stated it's the gathering of data. You're just gathering all the information that you can have. Like for example, you search the net, parang you copied everything. That's why ano, that's one thing I do. I like you copy everything. So that's how we do it. We copy everything, and then later I'll just start it and I will start writing, and then plan an outline. When you are able to gather all the information and you brainstorm, okay, that is when you will arrange the ideas. This part, for example, this part is good for introduction. The other part, this one is good for conclusion. So that's how you do it. You are starting to outline yourself and somehow you pattern it. What's my theme? What will be the theme of this writing? And then, that is where you will start your first draft. Ayun na nga, yung parang tapos na siya. Almost, parang tapos na siya. Pero, marami pa rin mga corrections doon. Then, the redraft and revise, then we go to edit and proofread. Before I proceed with this one, what is the difference between revise to edit? What's the difference? Revise versus edit. Anyone? Is there a difference between these two? Any idea how these two is different from one another? The revise versus edit. Yes, Heinrich?
Pagka sinabi po kasing revise, parang ano lang po, yung text, may pinapalitan ka lang po dun sa text. Or yung buong, pero yung pag-revise po nun, hindi lang po basta basta. Kasi pag sinabi mo pong revise, ano po yun, buong sentence, buong word, may nire-remove ka, tapos may papalitan ka. Pagka sa edit po kasi, dun lang po yung mga capitalization ng words, ganun, i-edit mo lang po yung tamang verbs or nouns, mga punctuation, spellings, yun lang po yung i-edit nyo dun. Pero kapag ka-revise po, buo po kasi yun. Buong ano po.
Okay, thank you for that, Heinrich. How about Jerome?
Ayun, ma'am. From the word itself, revise, you will be going to revise the sentence. You'll be going to put some revision. Yan, that's the keyword. Revision to your essay. For example, ma'am, in your essay, medyo hindi ka pa 100% confident with your first sentence. And then pwede kang maglagay o pwede kang magkaroon ng revision with that statement na parang nagsusupport sa first statement mo. And then sa edit po, ma'am, I think edit and proofread are the same. I mean, dito po na stage is magkakaroon lang po tayo ng konting editing with our verb, with the pronouns, with the is or are, like that po, ma'am.
Okay, you have the same thoughts with Heinrich. Shayna, let me hear you.
Ma'am, para po sa akin, ma'am, yung sa revise po, yun nga po, parang general po yung kailangan mong baguhin. While po dun sa edit, pag sinabing edit po, parang mga minimal errors lang po yung parang papalitan. Yan po.
Yes, all three of you, Heinrich, Jerome, and China, you get it correct. So when we talk about revising, we are talking about the content itself, the information that you have put there. The vocabularies, not really but more likely it is the idea. Like, for example, he said during your pre-write that this part is good for introduction. However, when you're done with your first draft, you realize that that introduction is good for conclusion. So that's how we do revision. But, as what you said, that the three of you, in terms of the edit and proofreading, minimal changes. Punctuations, spellings, capitalizations, small things. Kaya nga, di ba, pag gumagawa ng newspaper, describes, di ba? Pag describes. Kailangan, pag dumating kay editor-in-chief, you have to make sure na okay na talaga. Well, patraining okay na yung content. If there will be changes, it should be just the punctuation, the spelling, or maybe the design. Okay? So that's how it is. Revision needs a bigger changes. However, for editing, minimal lang. Okay? So good job. So that's it for the writing process. So that's what we do with the redraft, and then with the edits, and minimal naman na. Kapag okay na yun, meaning you already created your final output. And then we start again with the rewrite. So now, let's proceed with the approaches in teaching writing. So we already know how writing should be done, or the theories, sorry, and also the theories that is behind the writing skill. So how should we teach writing? Well, this is based on what topic you are referring to. Please note that with every topic that we have, we can use different approaches. We may even integrate approaches. Okay? So the first one is rule-based. This is as simple as teaching the rules to students. Like, you give them the rules, and once you give it to them, automatic, they can apply it in their writing. Okay? For example, you include in your activities, like identify the part of speech. What are the nouns? Where should we put nouns? Ma'am, it is most likely it will be subject. So we put nouns as a subject. And then locating this. And then when we're done, when they were able to identify the part of speech, and at the same time they are able to locate it, you are thinking, you have this thought that they will be able to apply it already once you ask them to write a sentence. Okay? So that is rule-based approach. So given this, we usually teach it on the initial part, okay, the initial part of the topic. Like, we first tell them the rules. Okay? So teachers provide sentences with language errors and ask children to correct the mistakes. So that is rule-based approach. We are basing writing with the rules. Kasi nga, di ba, writing is a complex thing. So they have to follow the given rule. So that is rule-based approach. Maraming ganito. Okay? Even I do this when I teach high school. I first teach them what are the rules. And when I was able to teach them the rules, I ask them to write. Okay? So that is rule-based approach. Now, we move to the process writing approach. Okay? So this is more focused on how students should write a text. It is like you are guiding them with brainstorming, and then you guide them to writing a draft, revise, and edit those drafts. So what is happening in your classroom whenever you do process writing? Most likely, students have a pen and paper on their table, and they are doing drafts. That is what's happening in this classroom. Unlike with rule-based, the teacher is the one, okay, in the classroom, in the front of the classroom, teaching the rules and asking the students to locate words, to correct sentences. That's rule-based. In process writing, it is more student-centered, as the students are taught how to create drafts, to revise, and to edit it. Okay, that's the difference with rule-based and the process writing approach. Okay, so what is the example activity whenever you have this process writing? The teacher assigned a writing topic, and then everyone will then brainstorm and then write. Okay, so that's how it is. Third, genre approach. So what about the genre? You do not just ask the students to write, you let them differentiate the different types or the different genre of writing. We have different genre of writing. We have narrative, we have expository, right? We have persuasive. At the same time, if we look further, there are other genre types like there is a different writing when we talk about ingredients, how to cook, di ba? We have a different writing for that. We also have a different writing when we talk about letters. And we also have a different writing when we write essays. So see, they have different formats. And that is what genre approach is all about. You are exposing them with a different genre that they can write. So you have your students to consider what is the context, the purpose, and their audience. Okay? So begins with children reading and analyzing a genre. So for example, what is a sample activity when we have a genre approach? So what's the purpose of informational text? So first, you let them read and then you ask them what is the purpose of that writing, and then maybe you ask them to write that kind of genre. Okay, so that's genre approach. You let them expose and write different types of genre in your class. Okay, and then the last but not the least is the strategy approach. With this one, it does not really focus on the knowledge about writing, but more likely the skills and the strategies of writing. Okay, so you teach the student how do they plan, how do they draft, how do they revise. Di ba sinasabi natin, oh, you brainstorm, you draft, you revise, but then we are not teaching them how should it be done. So that's what strategy approach is all about. You teach them. For example, oh guys, let's plan how to write. So, paano nga ba magpa-plan? Oh, you now tell them, oh, you can do note taking, you can watch videos, you can outline. That's the thing. You are teaching them how to plan, how to draft, and how to revise. Okay? So that is strategy approach. So what is a sample activity? Okay. Teachers thoroughly explain the steps of writing process, diba? The one I asked you to discuss a while ago. So the teacher I will tell them this is the writing process and we have to do it step by step. I will guide you. Okay, first, let's have a pre-write. Pre-write. Let's have an idea. Let's process the data. And then you teach them how should they process the data. Okay, so that's the thing. Okay, so uh, that's it. That is our strategy approaches. So you see, uh, that is strategy, genre, and then we also have process writing and rule base. Now, uh, strategy is not the last pala, but instead it is the multimodal writing approach. We can connect it with the viewing, okay, wherein we also tackle the multimodal, which we can integrate pictures, videos, okay, to write. For example, instead of asking them to just write a story, why not tell them to create a play? Okay? Oh, when they create a play, there will be a script writer. And in that part, the script writer, of course, will write. And then that's a multimodal. They already have the actors, the actress. Diba? Another, brochure. Why not let them create a brochure? Diba? They are not just writing, they will also design. Okay? So that's the multimodal writing approach. So here, creating a book. Let them create a book, but with pop-ups. Diba? It's multimodal. So that's how we do this one, the multimodal writing approaches. Okay. So with that approaches, may I ask you, what could be your focus, or maybe what are um, the approaches that you will probably use in your class, in your English class? Sige nga. So we have this rule base. Okay, we have this rule base. We also have the process writing, and then we have genre approach, okay, strategy approaches, and the multimodal writing approach. What will you use in your class? You can just pick one, or maybe you can integrate it, whatever you want, in your English class. Sige nga. Maybe have Kyla.
Hello po, good afternoon po, ma'am.
Hello.
Para po sa akin, mas pipiliin ko po yung rules-based approach. Kasi po para sa akin, importante po na alam natin bilang teacher na alam ng estudyante yung mga rules on grammar since kailangan maturo natin sa kanila yung tamang gamit ng mga rules sa pag-create po ng grammar. Yun po.
Okay, so most probably you will use the rule-based approach whenever you teach writing. Okay. Any other? Yes, Jerome.
Ayun, no. Since the world is moderated by technology and it is continuously improving and innovating, I think as a future digital teacher, I will go with the multimodal writing approach po. Since we cannot deny the fact that the pandemic is wala pa tayong kasiguraduhan kung kailan ito matatapos. And I think it is very important for us as a future teacher to codify the process and also the situation po. That's why I will go with the multimodal writing approach.
Actually, that is the trend nowadays that we choose to with the multimodal. Thank you, Jerome. Any other? May I hear from Abraham?
Hello po, ma'am. Para sa akin naman po, sa akin po, strategy approach po. Doon po, I will teach them strategies, then they will follow my strategies, and with that, they will come up with that strategies in writing.
Okay, so sabi nga nila parang you teach them the house and it will automatically be, they will know the what's and the what's. Okay, so thank you. So it depends you will not just take note that you will not just focus on one approach as what I have said. You may integrate, it may vary depending on what is needed. For example, you have your topic is, for example lang, subject verb agreement, diba? So most probably lang, you will use the rule-based approach. Okay, so it depends on your topic, on the situation, and the resources that you have. Okay, so it depends. It is you teacher to choose what approach you will have once you teach writing. Okay, so that's it. Now the last part is assessing writing. How should we assess our students in writing? So these are the initial stages. So, ganito, paano ba mag-check ng writing? Okay, ng mga bata? So, assessing the initial stages. Doon muna tayo sa, halimbawa, kakaturo mo pa lang. And then you ask them to write. Tapos napunta na sa iyo yung papel. How should you check it? Okay, so these are the things that you have to put into your mind. Number one, focus your effort. Look at this, initial tayo, Focus your effort primarily on meaning, idea, and organization. So, those three. Tingnan mo, may laman ba yung sinabi niya? Okay? Dun sa writing, sa essay na ginawa niya, is there a meaning? Is the idea conveyed effectively? Parang ganon. And the organization, Do we understand the flow of thoughts of the writer? So those are the three things we have to focus. Third, comment on the introductory paragraph. So, you know me that sometimes, or most of the time, I comment on your answers, especially when you're first here and you have this writing, right? So, you comment on that, like how it look like. Does it gather your attention? Interesting ba? Or need pa ng power? So, comment on the introductory paragraph of that student. Ano yung dating sa'yo? And then, make general comments about the main idea and logic, appropriateness, or of the organization. Since it is the initial pa lang, okay, the initial stages, just make general comments. Do not be very specific. Okay? Wag mo na masyadong specific since initial stages pa lang. Just look at their idea. How they put their thoughts into that writing. Comment about that and tell them about it. And then this is the last. Ignore minor grammatical or lexical error. Kung tawag dito, there's no writing mistake that is tolerable. But in initial writing, we can ignore that. Okay? Ignore muna natin. Lalo kung minor lang naman at hindi naman siya nakaka-apekto talaga. Pero syempre, pag napansin mo na, consistent na ganito yung ginagawa niya, siguro kailangan ng pansinin. Pero kung minor lang, like, for example, nagbaligtad lang yung spelling niya, we can ignore that. Yung mga pwedeng palampasin in terms of writing, palampasin na natin. Since it is just the initial stages of writing. Halimbawa, first grading pa lang naman, di ba? Tingnan muna natin how they write. Okay? So that's it. Now, initial stages are done. Now we're doing the later stages. So what should we do? Comment on specific. Okay? On the specific, clarify and strength. Comment on the specific, clarify and strength of all ideas. Now we have to be specific with a certain parts. Like for example, your introduction should be like this. Put blah blah in your body, in the body part of the essay. And then in the conclusion, it should be blah, blah, blah. So, be more specific. And then, argument. For example, napansin niya, nakulang yung argument niya. Okay? You comment on that. Okay? So, they can improve. Then, call attention to minor grammatical. Since it is already the later stages, you may now call this grammatical and mechanical errors. Okay? So, doon na natin sabihin. But direct the writer to self-correction. Okay? So, pwede mo sabihin sa kanila yung main principle, main rule, para hindi na nila ulitin sa iba. Halimbawa lang, ang problema niya, that person, the writer, always uses the base form of the verb even though it is already singular noun. With that, you may tell them, nak, when this happens, it should be plural, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you explain it. And then, comment any further word choices, expression that may not be awkward but is not as clear as direct as they could. Okay, so that's it. Remember, also in writing, yan pala, this is just a tip. They said that when you check papers, not only in writing, you have to avoid using red ball pen daw. Bakit? Kasi daw parang traumatic din sa mga students kapag red ball pen. Yun. Kaya, when you become future educator, tapos nag-check kayo ng mga papel, avoid using red ball pen. Okay. Why not use green, pink, orange, ganun, colorful, di ba? Yan. Parang tip lang yun na iwasan daw gumamit ng red ball pen. Lalo kung writing essay, tas ang dami mong bilog, di ba? Ewan ko na lang kung magsulot pa ulit yung mga bata. Ayun din. Be very careful in terms of madugo daw. Na nosebleed, di ba? Feeling ko rin. Okay. So, in terms of, kapag nag-check kayo ng mga gawa ng bata, please be gentle din sa kanila. Diba? The way I also correct you whenever you make mistakes, di ba? So, you have to adapt it. You do not entirely put a big X, di ba? Alam mo yun, ewan ko, siguro naranasan na rin yun dati. May naging prof kayo. Ako kasi may ganun akong prof. Talagang pag ayaw niya yung ginawa mo, talagang balaking X, di ba? Tapos simula nung parang nakakatrauma na magsulat. Pero ganun talaga. You have to still continue writing. And that's a challenge. So you as future educator, be gentle in terms of correcting your students, especially in writing. Kasi hindi niya na mabubura yun. Kung ano man yung isulat niyo doon, it will not be anything. Diba? So that's it. So these are just some tips in terms of checking the writing outputs of your students. So designing assessment tasks. So for the intensive or controlled writing, paano pa natin malalaman na controlled writing? You're telling the students, for example, this is their first time to write an essay, and you tell them the parts, and then you will have the topic, lahat kayo sa buong class, you will have your topic, and then it is controlled. Dictation and dicto comp, it's like you're dictating them what you are already dictating to them what they should write. They are listening to you and they will write. So that is controlled writing. Okay? Or kaya, note taking can also be part of controlled writing. Grammatical transformation task, meron silang ini-edit. Parang may fill in the blanks and they have to put a certain word. That's also controlled writing. Basta parang ilalagay mo doon, this underlined word should be noun. So, controlled yun. Kasi kinokontrol mo ano yung dapat nilang isulat doon. But they have a bit of a freedom of what they should write in that. So, that's controlled. So, that is how, sasabihin ko hindi masama ang controlled writing. Okay? It is also one of our assessment, but we usually use it for elementary or maybe in high school, in early stages of writing. Okay? So, it's okay to use this. Huwag lang mapapasok. Imitative training, tasks in writing letters, words, punctuations. So, ito yung imitative training, yung parang ituro mo sa bata, parang lalagyan mo lang nila ng period. Like, in writing, we should put a period at the end. So, yung buong sit word, ang gagawin nila, lalagyan nila ng period. And that's it. Imitative training. Yun lang po yun. Listening to close selection tasks. You give your students what is close task. You give your students, halimbawa, lyrics ng kanta, pero may mga words na nawawala. Tapos kailangan nilang makinig dun sa kanta para malaman nila kung ano yung mga words na nawawala. That is the close task. Okay? Hindi lang siya kanta, pwedeng TED Talk, yung mga film, gano'n. So, kailangan marinig si listening, tapos i-write nila. Most probably, listening and writing goes hand in hand. And then, this one, responsive and extensive writing. Ito na yung hindi na natin sila masyadong kinocontrol. So, what are the examples? Paraphrasing, guided question and answer, and then essay writing. Sila na mismo yung gagawa ng writing nila. Okay, hindi na siya controlled. We just give the topic and that's it. That is the responsive and extensive writing. Okay? So, those are some of the assessment tasks that we can use. Remember, there are a lot of activities. Alam nyo, maganda magturo ng writing since there's a lot of activities that we can do. We can be as creative as we can for writing. Okay? So, now, let's have a short activity. I want you to give me activity or maybe ways as to how you should assess writing with a given condition that I have here. Okay? So the first one, just tell me, how will you assess them? You can either give me a strategy, you can either answer me through approaches, or maybe you can answer me using, if you thought or if you think of any activities or tasks you can provide with a given condition. Okay, number one, kindergarten students. What writing activities can we give to them? Number two, students who struggle with spelling and punctuations. What activity? Three, students who love to storytell. And number four, students who need to practice their comprehension skills. Okay? So, just pick one condition, ganun na lang, just pick one condition, and then how will you assess these types of students? Shayna.
Try po ma'am sa for example po ma'am yung sa kindergarten students po, gagamitin ko pong design sa assessments. Tas na ibibigay ko po sa kanila is yung imitative ano po writing. Yung ano po ma'am, for example po para po matutunan nila ng ano ng mabuti yung ano yung mga alphabet letters po. Parang paparinigin ko po sila ng mga alphabet songs tapos ano i-evaluate po nila yun kasi ay gagamitin ko din po yung ano yung approach po na ano ma'am, yung process writing approach po. Parang yung self learning po tapos isusunod ko po yung role based approach para po doon ko na po sila i-assess po kung ano yung pagkaintindi po nila. Ganun po ma'am. Gets po?
Yeah. Yes, I get it. That's a good idea, Shayna. For kindergarten students, actually, imitative is the best approach, okay, that we can use for them. So that's right. We can use imitative, and then Shayna, we can use let them music. Sorry, can use music. Let them hear it, and then ask them to write it, diba? Again and again. And then after that, you ask them or you let them have or know the rules. Like for example, letter A should be written like this. So up. Ganun kasi pag kindergarten, kailangan lahat laro, di ba? So that's how it is. Okay, so that's good for kindergarten students. How about the other? Aryan, you have yours.
Wala pa po.
Wala pa. Sige. Sino meron na? Lara?
Meron po. Try
Yan,
lang.
sige.
Po sa students who struggle with spelling and punctuations po. Gagamitin po ng intensive controlled writing. Kasi ano po sa grammar, maga parang i-dictate po sa kanila yung tamang ano po ng words paggamit tsaka sa paragraphs. Then ano po, tsaka po isusunod yung approach na rule-based po. Yun po.
Yes, that's good one. Intensive, tama? It's perfect for with those who struggle spelling and punctuation. Kasi nag-struggle pa sila. Hindi pwedeng pasulatin mo sila ng pasulatin. Their writing should be controlled. So that's good. We use intensive and then we should be followed with rule-based. Okay? Alright? How about the last two? What writing activity can be done?
Ma'am, try ko lang po. Dito sa students who love to storytell, yung gagamitin ko po sa kanya is yung interactive speaking po. Kasi 'di ba sa interactive speaking more on own thoughts like yung mga performance ng students. Tas yung task na ibibigay ko po sa kanila is yung po, yung mga mag-create ng poems or longer stories to tell po. Yun po, ma'am.
Yes, extensive. Okay. If this one is controlled, those who struggle with spelling and punctuation, this one should be more of extensive. Okay. And what Nala said, you can ask them to write poetry, stories. Okay. And with that, they will be able to write. So that's good. Also, we can have the genre approach for these students who love to storytell. We can expose them with narrative genre. Okay. And last but not the least, how about those who needs to practice comprehension skills? Leonard, how about you?
Ano po, ma'am?
Okay, let's try.
Siguro po, para sa akin po, dito po sa students who need to practice their comprehension skills, siguro po expose ko po sila sa process writing approach po. Para po sa akin, yun nga po, yung sa kung kailangan po ng comprehension skills, mostly po parang kailangan po muna makipag-collaborate po. Parang kailangan po muna mag-brainstorm para once na makapag-gather na po sila ng data sa bawat isa, parang mas mapapadali na po mag-gather ng idea galing mismo sa sarili nila. Yun po mo.
Where there were peers who can help that student to struggle in terms of comprehending what has been said. Okay, so in this, with the process writing, they can be helped. We can also add here the social cultural theory, wherein this student be guided, okay, in terms of writing. Okay, so that's it for the writing. I realize that you have some of the concepts. I hope that you planted it into your mind since writing is really one of the difficult things to let students acquire. Also, it is also one of the difficult things that teachers will check. Kasi ang haba, di ba? Ayun yung struggle din ng mga teacher. So, so nearing to end, let us have here the learning guide activities, like what is in your learning guide. So, in part 1, you should just determine what process or stages. Ano yung tinutukoy dito na process or stages? Ito yung diniscuss kanina ni Nando at ni Heinrich. Process writing approach, yung may pre-write, ayun po yun, ha? Okay? Pre-write, redraft, revise, edit. So, you just have to identify with that given action, what process is that? Okay? And then for letter B, you just define writing. Okay? Writing naman yung i-define nyo, but using a word cloud. Ito po, ganito po yung example ng word cloud. Okay? So, you do that. Hindi po siya ilalagay nyo sa cloud, literal na ulap, yung definition ng writing. Word cloud is like this. Okay? Then, for part C, you look at this one. Okay? So, you look at the example. And then, you just need to answer this one briefly but substantially. Okay? Huwag na masyadong mahaba. 1 to 2 sentences will do. Kaya nga maikli lang naman yung mga lining dyan. But make it substantial. Okay? So, that's it for the learning guide. Just remember, writing is a very important thing. If you want to change the world, pick up your pen and write. And that is according to Martin Luther. So, thank you so much. English 2A.